in today's tie breaks. And, well,
we have a lift-off.
We do have a lift-off. Let the show begin. And we already see that Abdusattorov opens with a king's pawn and Yakubboev answers in kind.
Yes. And we have a ducal piano.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Bishop c5 is not played just yet, right? So, well, now we do. And yeah, technically, Gioco piano, you call the one with d3, right? So that could be some crazy gambits and stuff, but no. Yeah, so castles, knight f6, d3. I think we've seen Abdusattorov playing this one. d7, d6.
And what will happen? c3 played.
c3, so now knight c3, h6, and you know, the symmetrical. Right, so a5 is the move, a6 is the move, right?
Any move, yeah.
Not quite, not
a5 played, preventing
a5,
d4.
yeah, okay.
Will it be difficult for the two players to adjust to playing blitz?
Yeah.
Especially Yakubboev, you know, he's just come off of quite a tense, long endgame.
Fatigue might, but I don't think it is very hard for them to adjust.
Yeah.
Because they are known as a very good speed player.
Yeah, well, you know, like being a good blitz player and playing kind of two games mini-match after the classical event is like different things, right? Because you just kind of for 9 days you had this rhythm of when you ran out of time, that means 30 seconds for the move, and now it means 3 seconds for the move. So that's a big difference. Like, because yeah, like some stuff just kind of getting inbuilt in your head that yeah, you've made a move, you have 30 seconds, now you have 3 seconds. So, when you are like really short on time, you have to be super quick. So bishop to a7, h3. So far, I don't think anything new has happened.
Nothing new, but...
Wow, an extra minute. Look, an extra minute for Abdusattorov already. H7, h6.
Aha, and now this is the tricky part. Maybe Yakubboev is planning to play g5 and then push it to g4. Now white already castled. It might be a good idea.
But too
optimistic.
Well, maybe we will see a plan like that because it is a blitz game and you can traditionally play in a more risky style. But okay, castles on the board. And we'll see how Nodirbek actually handles this. And I remember that you were mentioning that it is actually possible to go bishop e6.
Yeah, here with the pawn on a5, that's...
You cannot go before afterwards.
The wisdom is that you can play bishop e6. Black instead goes knight to e7. Also very common to bring this knight to g6, knight g3, knight g6, and now if you play, say, bishop b3, no, he didn't.
He played d4, yeah? Or
d4.
Yeah, d4.
Eventually he goes d4. So now the big question is,
what do you do?
Capture on d4 and d5, yeah, there's always a question, like when you went d4, and you've built this center, but yeah, like after e takes, c takes, there's always d5 that you have to account for.
And he took on d4.
He captures on d4, right?
C
pawn
d4,
takes.
and then d5 is
d5.
on the card.
And it is on the board.
So, yeah, I'm not quite sure if white is so happy with the results of the opening. We'll see.
Pawn takes pawn,
takes, knight takes.
Knight takes, and will there be pressure applied?
Yeah, like how do we apply pressure on this d5 knight? It's a big question, right?
Well,
so queen b3, there is c6.
As easy as that. And you also have jumps in to the center with the knight coming to e5, but also a big question is what is white going to do with the dark squared bishop? It has no satisfactory square. Well, Abdusattorov says yes, he can develop to d2.
Bishop d2, targeting this guy.
And c6.
c6. So the knight's supported, the pawn's protected. Queen c2, while some, tricky things. If the knight's moved, all of a sudden g6 knight is hanging.
Yes. So don't move the d5 knight, especially.
And also, look, a good natural
Yeah, like
move
bishop e6, rook e6. Yes, that's
So
another nice kind of idea that queen c2 covers. So for black, right, I mean, he has to look
knight
for the way to...
h4.
Knight to h4, yes, exchanging the f3 knight, or attempting to exchange the f3 knight,
Okay.
getting rid of this knight on g6, which was kind of hanging. So the question is, do we go knight e5, sacrifice the pawn, and don't know what for, once again.
Well, that is the
No
big
idea.
question, right? If you jump forward, you do give up the d4 pawn, and central pawns are worth fighting for.
Yeah. So I mean, this is the standard reaction when you are playing against IQB, right? You want to trade pieces so that in the end game this d4 pawn will be weak.
Now it's Abdusattorov's turn to think.
Yeah.
Is he considering knight to
Well, you
knight,
can-
or is he maybe considering
You can do some funny things, like take on d4.
worth fighting for?
Yeah. So I mean, this is the standard reaction when you are playing against IQB, right? You want to trade pieces so that in the end game this d4 pawn will be weak.
Now it's Abdusattorov's turn to think.
Yeah.
Is he considering knight to
Well, you
knight,
can-
or is he maybe considering
You can do some funny things, like take on d5 in this position, right? So, like bishop d5 guards the knight on f3, so black has to recapture with the pawn, and then take the knight on h4 and take the pawn on a5. But, like, it's a few moves with captures, but then after bishop d4 you're probably worse. There is a little problem, yeah.
maybe it's just time to go all in, jump in with a knight to the center, just disregard material and
Yeah, like for the blitz game, interesting. I'd be reasonably happy. Just put the knight on e5, bishop d4, rook a d1, you know, without much calculation. I know my pieces are playing and so on, but yeah, this is not how these guys are playing chess.
no,
Everything has to be calculated.
Abdusattorov now down to under 2 minutes and 20 seconds. And we captures the knight. Queen jumps forward,
So
and it
queen
is
takes.
possible for white to actually capture the pawn on a5, but that would be a mistake after bishop takes pawn, and suddenly there is a double threat against the knight and the bishop.
And rook e4 is on
Rook
the
e4.
board,
Rook e4.
attacking d4 and also attacking the queen at the same time.
Queen went to f6.
And then white has to be careful because what can it be? I thought bishop f5 was a good move, but there is still
Yeah, white has to be careful, period, right? I mean, why not?
also bishop d4 maybe is
Bishop d4 is
a threat right now.
could be a threat because some knight h5 you'd have queen g6 pinning the rook, yeah, but even out of this relatively simple position, they've managed to create something very, very tactical. Yeah, rook takes rook f4. Oh, sorry, bishop takes rook f4. I thought was well, an interesting attempt. So let's see if it holds through.
No,
Now black has an extra minute. So Abdusattorov, yeah, was playing very fast, but then spent some time and couldn't find any really good.
but the position still has a lot of danger for both sides. You know, white's rook on f4 is primed for an attack against the black king.
Queen g6.
Queen g6.
Wait a second. So queen g6. Now, if white trades the queens,
And he
well,
does.
yeah, trades the queens, captures on f8, perhaps.
Can he?
And then just play bishop e3 maybe?
And you can capture also on a5.
Oh, like takes on a5, but still after
e-
bishop d4, bishop's very active, right? So knight e2, right? Knight e2. So this way, knight equals f4, c3. So if the dark square bishops would be exchanged, white would be perhaps even slightly better, okay, with potential to be slightly better. Right?
Yeah, this knight f4 is a threat, but also bishop a5. Should black do something with this? Yes, and black just
Bishop
did
b6, yeah. Bishop b6 because the pawn was...
So maybe now protect d4 and then play knight f4. Okay, let's say bishop e3 first, so bishop c3.
Yeah, it's It's always the question where you want
Yeah,
this
where
bishop,
you want to go, yeah?
where you want
He
this
did rook c1.
stupid bishop to go, because it will be stupid either on c3 or e3, right? So rook to c1, fine, but then black can do bishop e6, knight f4, bishop f7, right? Be solid for now. There's also g5, just to restrict, to take away the square.
Yeah, maybe after rook c1, I think the idea is to play knight c3 and then just put the knight on b5, because after knight c3 you're forced to play bishop e6.
I might take the pawn.
Yeah,
taking the pawn, taking d5. Oh yeah, b2 is also hanging, so maybe that's not...
Yeah, like, in general, with two bishops, you would prefer for these two pawns not to be there, right?
He's reaching for the bishop.
Right.
It's going to develop to e6.
Bishop to e6.
Yeah, bishop e6, and the idea is to meet knight to f4 with bishop f7, just safely securing both weak pawns on g6
these guys
and
will be
d5.
protected.
Yes.
So now, since f4 is still an option, we can go bishop f4, bishop e5, because I'm looking at the good square for the bishop.
Both players now around the minute mark, and just bear in mind they are only getting a 3-second increment. And a tricky move from Abdusattorov on the board. Rook c3 threatening rook to b3 and perhaps winning material. So Yakubboev needs to be careful.
Wow.
Rook c8.
Which looks like a blunder after knight f4, but you can
No, but
take
rook
the
b3.
rook b3.
Rook b3. This was
The whole idea.
Yes,
But after rook c6...
Wow. Rook b3, now this is hanging. If you move the bishop, b7's gone.
you have to
Rook to
lift
c6.
the rook.
Has to go rook c6.
And now
And now I think it's time to save the d4 pawn and then reroute the knight somehow.
So what did he do? Bishop c...
he's gone a4 first.
a4. Yeah, because
Go back a4 itself. Yeah.
the rook on b3 was a bit uncomfortable.
But also now the rook is threatening to come to b5 and target the a5 pawn. This is looking scary for Yakubboev.
Bishop c2 is going to be the intention.
Bishop f5 played, bishop c2, right. So there won't be, peaceful, quiet draw from this moment on, because kind of both sides have their aggressive...
Knight f4.
Knight to f4.
So I guess after bishop c2 will be met by rook c3.
Well, bishop c2 was played, and then rook f3.
f3.
Rook f3, going for some
move.
checks, double checks,
This is so tricky.
Do not be tempted to move the bishops, because there are discovered checks against
E8.
King. King e8 and Yakubboev
E8.
10 seconds.
You know what? I'm not
Knight
sure
takes d5.
how White's position, if White's position is any good, because now, bishops will start chopping those pawns off. Bishop d4, a4's hanging, b2's hanging.
But it doesn't matter,
Bishop
because the clock is
e4,
ticking down.
bishop e4 is in the air.
But there's also rook f4.
Rook f4.
Yeah,
Bishop takes a5. Pieces are hanging.
Yeah, many pieces are hanging right now, and they only have about 10 seconds left on the clock. Crunch time.
And Nodirbek now ticking down to 7 seconds.
C3.
Wow, nice c3.
Has to speed up. Rook f6, correct idea to trade the rooks away.
Yes.
So rook takes, bishop takes. Black cannot lose this one either on time.
f3. And bishop check on
f3,
d4.
check on d4.
King goes to f1.
You have more checks,
Yes,
right?
bishop d3, king e1.
Have more checks.
King d7.
But the white king is coming towards the center. It's coming towards the action there on the queen side, and
Knight
black
e4.
king steps forward, and knights are such tricky pieces.
Knight e4, do you take this guy? Yeah, I think
Yes.
you take. Yeah.
You took that.
He didn't. He took on b2. And knight c5. Is knight c5 no. I'm behind. Pardon me, guys. I'm behind on this coverage. So I think our digital board just can't go.
Okay, let's focus on the camera.
Right. Bishop e4. Yeah, I'm far behind, seriously.
Yeah, and
Okay,
there we can
So
just
one
focus
pawn each
on the edge.
on the
And
side.
Oh, not
Bishop
one
h4.
bullet.
Yes.
With the
Falling.
check.
G7
is
though.
safe there.
G7.
yeah, but that can be defended.
That can be defended for sure.
H5.
But
Wow.
It's not
That's
really need to be defended.
That's a fun
And
move.
throws a check.
Almost a checkmate, but you have the king of a king b8. Yeah.
Black is looking good. Black has an extra pawn.
But watch out for the clock.
Yeah, the pawn's gonna go, but right, you know, like he's hunting this G2, and Abdusattorov is also so low on time. Bishop H5.
That pawn will be fallen on G4. You cannot stop this. You cannot stop Bishop G4.
And if you take on G7, the knight was getting stuck on G7 after Bishop D7, so that's really, really... Well, you can still hope to save this one, but, you know, I'm afraid it will all be decided on time, you know.
And Yakubboev ticking down to 12 seconds.
Bishop D8 now, King C6, so he is going after this A pawn now.
Yes, and getting two weaknesses, I mean, two strength for Yakubboev, because this G pawn is also...
So what do you do then? Do you try to...
King B5 now.
Yeah, you do play King B5 for black, I think. Yeah, that's what black does. And Bishop D8 will win this pawn, right? So just go Bishop D8, yes.
Yeah.
He could have gone Bishop G5, like, you know, a little annoying move, but that's fine.
Oh, then...
And now A or B pawn,
you
rather.
You take first and then you go Bishop C7, so stop the king from...
No, Bishop E5. Not so easy. Not so easy.
Yakubboev, two pawns up.
If you go Bishop C7, now Bishop C7 is...
King D5, no? Oh, King... Yeah. Right.
Now
2 pawns, it's winning. It is winning. He has to be careful, but it is absolutely winning.
After Bishop E5 maybe?
And
now
what a start it's going to be.
Oh,
and he has won on time.
Yeah.
So Yakubboev won the first game.
Wow. What a
dramatic
game decided in the final seconds. We saw the panic. We saw how Abdusattorov vainly tried to get the knight moving, but in the end it was Yakubboev's bishop pair that was decisive. Wow. Well, that means that Abdusattorov now is in a must-win situation with the black pieces. What's it gonna take?
Why anything can still happen. I just don't, you know, I'm still in shock how they can end it like that, because it looks like white was just in control, but somehow with all this time scramble, Yakubboev proven to be a better player.
And for Yakubboev, what's it going to be? He has the white pieces. How should he play?
I think just solid opening, maybe.